Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Long as I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. Sports Coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your chain for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees or Roger Goodell. Yeah, probably like this and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
All right, shout out to the mighty Who Dat Nation. Much love to the fam. Appreciate y'all being on this episode of The Stream as well. Much love to the fam. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Now rocking with the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, where we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports fam. Shout out to y'all. Appreciate y'all for being in the live. Hit the like button and the sub button, the subscribe button and the share button, and the notification button. Just light them all up. We up in this thing. Shout out to you guys. In this episode, we'll be talking about giving you guys, and I've done these before, but let's do one a little closer to the offseason with the Super Bowl in the rearview mirror. The black and gold is fixated on kind of turning it up for this season. The very positive thing is the fact that we have the quarterback situation resolved. The money situation is resolved, and things are looking a lot better, very faster here because of some of the problems solved on the back end of last year. So that's a very positive thing as well. We'll be talking about what's going on and giving this Saints Offseason Preview, or Outlook rather, in this episode. Also, shout out to FanDuel. Much love to FanDuel, the official sponsor of the Sports Coma. Y'all check out FanDuel, get your prop bets in. Even though the NFL season is over with, the NBA is going on strong. Just went through the All-Star break. We have MMA and MLB. All of that is available on the app at FanDuel. Get your bet in. Shout out to you guys. All right, anyway, let's get right into it, man, to kind of talk about what's happening with the black and gold in this offseason outlook for the black and gold. Shout out to NOLA.com. They did a really good article on this. Shout out to Matt Paris, as he just came along and just dropped a really good, solid article for us to check out here. And I wanted to go over this with you and to kind of brief the family members, just to kind of let you guys know about basically what's going on with the Saints. Now, of course, the outlook is, we're going to cover the cap situation as well, because that's a big portion of it. What's needed. We talk about the upgrades in the wide receiver room, running back room. Not so much upgrades. I don't want to be disrespectful to none of the players, but outlook, upgrades, improvements. Adding players and making things a little bit more competitive, and as what I mean there, in terms of adding competition to the running back room, tight end room, wide receiver room, offensive line. We got a hole in the left guard position. We need depth there as well. We also are looking at the fact that we have to do a better job insofar as with Cesar Ruiz. And according to Over the Cap, right now, this is what it's dealing with right here, saying that the Saints are $6 million, just over $6 million in the red currently. So, what could we do about that? That's a few restructures, but knowing how Mickey Loomis and company move, there'll be several restructures. We have players like Chris Olave. He comes with the biggest base salary hit annually speaking, over $15 million. We expect the Saints to get an extension done with Chris Olave at some point of this offseason, which will then open up a boatload of cash on top of the restructuring of Chase Young's $4.8 million. Kamara's final year at 11.5, the 10.7 of Granderson, McCoy's 10 million flat, and so on and so forth. Plus, we have to deal with the re-signing of players like Demario Davis and Cam Jordan and others if we're going to keep this thing going, right? Alante Taylor. With that being said, when the NFL cap went up, it absorbed a great deal of the Saints' salary situation that really benefited us, to be honest with you. Now, as a team, the Saints could kind of pivot and kind of work their magic, so to speak, but there's going to be an uptick in terms of players that we might not be able to get back. One in particular, I hold my thought process on possibly losing is Alante Taylor. It's a lot of information is coming out that a lot of these teams are going to swing for the fences. They look at Alante Taylor on some lists, have him listed as the second best cornerback available. His interceptions aren't there, but he's a great tackling DB. Very fearless player, intelligent, but if his interceptions was there, man, he can command a boatload of cash. But I think ultimately somebody will pay Alante Taylor. And the Saints' strategy going into free agency is to allow the market to dictate the value for players like Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, and Alante Taylor. So we'll see how that's handled. But anyway, getting into the off-season breakdown or the outlook preview, let's get into this article right here. Super Bowl is over. NFL offseason is here. The Saints once find themselves over the salary cap, but this year, based on projections, the salary cap website, which I just showed you guys, have the Saints estimated to be $6 million plus over. That is relatively light work for the team's front office compared to past seasons, right? That's a good feeling. That's what Mickey said in July. Online, that's a great feeling right there. Online. Because they're not in a deep hole, the Saints won't have to restructure contracts at the same volume to get compliance before free agency opens up in March. But it also sets the stage for another possibility that the Saints could, again, restructure a number of contracts to create a good amount of cap space so they can go on a spending spree. And the reality is, why wouldn't you? And usually I advocate for smarter book management, but the reality, and this is a special year. And what I mean by that, take a look at this. The Saints can rework their magic, and look, they can rework the magic, but look at 2027. You see what I'm saying? Look at 27. 27, the Saints estimated to have over $150 million in cap money. So the Saints could restructure several contracts this year and free up north of $25 million. And I ain't say going on a spending spree, but they can afford to go out and get the best free agents they could. Like, say, for instance, they're going to go out and I take it like, if you're the Saints, you want to try to solve some of these issues in free agency and then go into the draft and just draft the best player available. That's the best feeling in the world, right? We don't have to reach on any players when we get to the draft, because that's when you get in trouble. We can hit free agency. Shout out to you guys. I see you, man. Appreciate y'all for being in the stream. Much love to the fam. I see y'all. OG, Gundam, big ups to everybody. Scoob, much love. T-Mom, everybody out there for being in the stream. Y'all hit that like button for me. Now, all I'm saying is I usually advocate for cleaner and better and smarter management of books, right? I always talk about doing that. But when you look at what the Saints have going on coming into the upcoming season, I mean, in 27, 26, they're just $6 million over, and 27, you're looking at $150+ million in team cap space. So if you're the Saints, you want to rework these contracts and go north of $25 million. Now, what it does do is, if you got a player on a 1-year deal and you don't want to kind of, you don't have to rework his money. You can kind of save it where it is. You can absorb his contract. Like, say, for instance, Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara's done this year. He's $10 million annually. You can restructure it and pay him some of it and kick it into the phantom space, but you don't have to really do that if you don't want to, right? if you free up north of 25 million, let's say the Saints do anywhere between 25 to 35 million in salary cap relief, they can absorb that 10 million, right? So that it gives them flexibility to have some imagination, because then what the Saints could do is they can be about the business of simply going in and handling up and making sure they get the best players available. And that's what I'm talking about. That's really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the team literally getting the best available free agents that's out there. And there are quite a few guys that's out there, and we'll go over some of these free agents that's available for the Saints in this episode. So y'all hit that like button as we proceed. Share the show on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, wherever you go. Please take the Coma with you. It helps out, and it'll be a favor to your boy, Big Q, in the building, right? So anyway, getting into it. It does restructure a number of contracts, create some good amount of space so they can go on a spree. But will they? We got to be judicious. You know, we could be judicious about this, said Mickey. We can't go out there and just start throwing contracts around and doing things that we wouldn't ordinarily do. But we will have some different opportunities. Now, why does this seem a little different than what we customarily hear from the New Orleans Saints organization, right? We know that there was a talking point by Gail Benson that came out this year where she wanted not to have so much expending of contracts going on. Now, she said that prior to the start of the season with the Saints, but when you start winning and then there's an enthusiasm around the team, that usually changes how things are going to act. And of course, when we get done with all of the free agency and the drafting, there's going to be even bigger buzz around the team, and then the Saints just going to jack up the ticket prices. They're going to jack up the ticket prices. Y'all know it, and I know it. They're going to jack up the ticket prices. So we know that the Saints do not need a lot, right? They can be very smart on how they handle it, but you need a left guard because you got a hole there. You need some competition for Cesar Ruiz there. You need a backup center because Luke Fortner is a free agent, right? So there's help. You're going to need some help in terms of depth, which could be draft picks you can use at some point because you got several draft picks. You could probably add another veteran wide receiver to the mix. That we have Chris Olave, Valet, and others. We can add maybe Juwan Jennings or whoever you like in that role. We can add another veteran. We can add a veteran tight end to Juwan Johnson, or perhaps we can do a draft there. You know, the Saints might want to pick up a fullback or a tight end that plays fullback like we seen last year, or perhaps to open up spaces. But it's more of the thing of providing competition in these different areas, right? We know bringing DeMario and Cam, Alante if possible, and reassembling the entire team. If the Saints can somehow get Alante and all these guys back and then hit in free agency, get a starting left guard, maybe another interior offensive lineman to provide competition at the right guard position, and, of course, several cheap veterans in the third layers of free agency, and maybe the second layers of free agency, that you can start seeing things twist and turn for the Saints. You can also see them picking up maybe an inexpensive running back. It depends. At some point, the Saints are going to bring in a veteran quarterback as well. With Jake Hayner going to Kansas City, the Saints are going to need a third quarterback option. What do they do in that case? You see what I'm saying? Now, we still have Hunter Deckers, but perhaps the Saints want a more experienced veteran. What does that look like? You know, in a punter situation, Kai Kroger, do the Saints bring back, some competition with him there, or do they go in a different direction, some stuff like that? So it's different questions, but it's a lot better this year. We have a lot of answers to our questions in terms of what we need to do. And now, well, you got the quarterback. You got the offense of identity going. You just need to fortify and build around your quarterback and add weapons there. And then you go from what you know. That's the bottom line. You just go for what you know. So it simply is what it is, man. And we just have to handle the business and do what we need to do. That's just the bottom damn line, right? That's all we need to do. All right. So anyway, fam, let's keep it going in this thing, man, as we keep it pushing and moving and grooving all at the same time. All right, here's the guide to what the Saints will have to tackle over the next few months, creating cap space, right? Generally, the Saints take their larger contracts on the books and restructure them to lower the player's cap number for the upcoming year, using the difference to create cap space. If that pattern follows, here are some deals that could be touched. Look at this. Chase Young, let me get up close and personal with y'all with this. Chase Young, who's $20.5 million cap hit for 2026, could free up nearly almost $11 million if fully converted, right? So there you go with that. A $20.5 million cap hit for the upcoming year could free up almost $11 million if converted. Alvin Kamara's money, $18.5 million cap hit, could free up $8.2 million. Carl Granderson, who's $18 million cap hit, could free up $8.6 million. Eric McCoy, who has almost $18 million cap hit, would free up $7 million. And Cesar Ruiz, $14.2 million cap hit, could free up $6.2 million. So those 5 moves alone will free up almost $41 million for the Saints, turning New Orleans $6 million deficit roughly into $35 million space. The NFL has yet to finalize next year's salary cap figure, but is reported to be between $301.2 mil and $305.7. So over the cap's numbers is subject to change. Over the cap uses a projected $303.5 million base salary cap estimation. So as you can see right here, these numbers just between these contracts alone, and what the Saints are showing right here, that they could, and this is just phenomenal to me, to be honest with you, because what it does do is it simply frees up a good amount of monies to be had. Because if you look at this, Chase's 20.5, 18.5 for Alvin, Carl's 18, 7.6 by McCoy, and 14.2 by Cesar Ruiz. If restructures for all those, just those 5 contracts at $41 million, leaving a space of $35 million just between 5 contracts. So as you can see, depending on how far the Saints want to go with this thing, they can have, I estimate probably, like I said, conservatively between $25 to $35 million. If they went 8 to 9 contracts deep, they could free up north of $35 million. Let's just say that. $35 million in cap space, which could be used to get a starting level left guard, a starting level right guard, or a competitor for Cesar Ruiz to push him for that position. Re-signing a Luke Fortner, re-signing to Cam Jordan, re-signing to Mario Davis, and perhaps Alontae Taylor if he's not out of the market. But I anticipate we're going to lose at least one of these guys, to be honest with your family. So that is a good space, right? $41 million between 5 contracts. Very interesting. The most interesting contract to watch is Kamara's. Simply restructuring his contract would increase his cap hit in 2027 when the contract is already set to void. So the Saints don't have to touch that contract and have other options. That's what I was saying about a guy like Alvin Kamara, who's on the final year of his deal. And usually when you have final year of deals, where you usually have 1-year deals, that is something that you don't usually want to touch. So that'll be interesting to see how the Saints handle that, right? And that's the interesting part about it, right? They could release, and this is the thing, the Saints don't have to mess with those contracts. Like I said, they could release the 30-year-old with a post-June 1st cut, according to the article. I wouldn't do that, but they're just saying just in case, right? The post-June 1st designation clears at $8.5 million, though that money wouldn't be freed up until June, or they could see whether Kamara is open to a pay cut, similar to how the team approached other veterans over the last few years. And listen, I wouldn't totally poo-poo what the writer is saying in this article, because remember the behavior of Mickey Loomis toward Alvin Kamara over the last couple of years. Remember that weird conversation he had with AK-41 when they asked him where did he want to go? Remember Alvin Kamara had that press conference and he talked about Mickey Loomis approaching him and saying, well, where do you want to go? Y'all remember that? And, you know, all he said over the last couple of years is that I want to be a Saint for life. So that whole dynamic, if I never have heard that, I would be like, no, I don't think he's going anywhere. But when I heard them, when Mickey approached him like that, and that he kept saying over time he wants to finish his career as a Saint. So at some point, there could be a plan to replace Alvin. I mean, there is a plan. Let's be honest with you. He's been hurt the last couple of years. He's no longer the centerpiece of the Saints offense. Remember, everything used to flow through Alvin Kamara, like 65 to 70% of the game plan used to flow through Alvin Kamara. He's not that guy anymore. The Saints do not rely on him to win games, right? Even when he was healthy, they were using him in a great deal, but he didn't occupy, like he wasn't the main source, even though at times you would see him as option one. But it was times when Alvin, the Saints really didn't play through him. Like they didn't use him as an all-purpose weapon. Like the offensive line was a part of it. They didn't open up holes for him, and him running hard into those closing holes and picking up like 2 yards and falling down. He took a beating and a brutal beating doing that. And I can only imagine what he looks like if the Saints invest in the interior offensive line. And listen, let's be very clear here. The Saints have to invest money in fixing the interior line. And listen, I'm not saying do it over 2 or 3 years. I think what happened with, let's just put it like this. You got a 26-year-old quarterback, right? Even though originally when the Saints, we looked at rebuilding the team once the old people were gone, that change has happened, and it's a change of thinking, obviously, because number one, you don't have a 22-year-old quarterback. Despite what Mickey Loomis said about him playing, he could possibly play for 10 years until he's 36. We don't often see that happen here. It only happened, let's not be short-sighted. We only seen that happen with Drew Brees. We got fortunate with Drew Brees. There's not often times where you get a quarterback that will play for 20 years or some, that'll play into their late 30s, with the game. Drew Brees started breaking down at different points and was supposed to be replaced a lot earlier than where he was. Lamar Jackson, it was that year when he got passed on and the Saints picked up Davenport. That was supposed to be the year right there. You grab Lamar Jackson and bring him on the team. Saints obviously didn't do that, but what I'm saying is that was a thought process of then coach, because he didn't believe in drafting quarterbacks and making them the face. He preferred to deal with veterans because he felt that he can get to the winning sooner. Obviously, that changed when he went to Denver, but really, you had a college veteran. The guy played for 7 years, so he came into the NFL very seasoned in concepts and principles. So the maturation process was already there. The guy played in different schemes, pro-style schemes, Bo Nix for 7 years, right, off and on. So he had a lot of time. He went to basically QB school for 7 years in college. Now, the thing is, sometimes they compare Bo Nix and Tyler Shuck. The difference is Bo Nix actually played those games. Shuck was hurt. He played 1 full year. Spot duty here and there in the 7 years he played. But the bottom line is Tyler Shuck is 26 years old. So you can't have the same progression, like in terms of you turning and say, hey man, we gonna wait over the next, build a team up over the next 5+ years, right, through the draft. Obviously that you have to speed up the timeline, especially when you see you got him, he's 26 years old. The division is where it is. The Saints can really not overdo it, but really go into free agency and get a couple of the top, a tier 1 guard, a tier 2 interior guard, re-sign Luke Fortner, and then you could pick up draft picks and cheap veterans in the third stages of free agency, right, to kind of add to it. You re-sign Cam, DeMario, see what Alante doing. And if you can, and then you have enough draft picks. My philosophy is when you go into the draft, into free agency, you see if you can fill your needs. You get a veteran, you get like a backup veteran quarterback. You get if you can find a veteran tight end that can help you out with, and add competition to the room behind Juwan Johnson, help him out there. The number one priority to me is getting a left guard. That's a starter right there. And for agency, you got to have the money you can spend on one and the right competition for the right guard. Re-sign Luke Fortner. Kind of just improve, add depth. I wouldn't be mad if Saints sign a veteran wide receiver. There's several. You can look at the running back position. Maybe you get a veteran to come into there if you want to. Maybe you look at a fullback or a tight end that could play fullback. You bring him in like that was supposed to be what the former Philadelphia tight end that they brought here was supposed to be, and that didn't work out. So it's different ways you can approach this thing. But obviously with Tyler Shuck and him being 26 years of age, I'm not saying he's not going to play for a long time. I'm just looking at the averages that a lot of these quarterbacks don't play well into their 30s. A lot of them don't because of the roughness of the game. Now, you have a few guys that do. I'm not saying Tyler's not the guy, but, I play the averages. And outside of that, Alvin Kamara is on his last year. Kendre Miller is also on his last year. So there is a idea that we will have to eventually start looking at replacing Alvin Kamara, and what better way to do it this year to go about getting Alvin Kamara's replacement while he's still on the team and Jeremiah Love, if he's there, right? So it's just different thinking, but I would rather finish or fill all my needs that I possibly, especially if I got the cap money. I got the cap money. I free up north of $35 million. I got $150 million free for next year in 2027, the following year. So if I'm making a swing for the fences, I go get a top-notch left guard. I go get a really good right guard that compete with Cesar. I get Luke Fortner back. I cover my bases offensively because the line, we have to build up the line because we're not running the ball well enough. And then after we fill the great many of our needs in free agency because we have the money, then we turn to the draft and simply draft the best player available, then add them into the team. That is, to me, is a good stratagem. But of course you will work around it free agency wise, depending on how things look in terms of your money. But the Saints are sitting pretty with the money. They're sitting pretty with the picks. They got it going on this year, and they should be confident going into free agency. Anyway, let's keep it going here. So they could release 30-year-old Alvin with a post-June 1st designation, clearing up $8.5 million, though the money wouldn't free up until June, or they could see whether Kamara is open to a pay cut, similar to how the team approached other veterans over the few years. I do think they'll ultimately approach Alvin Kamara with a pay cut suggestion. They will approach him with that type of suggestion. Why? Because I just feel it's like they know Alvin Kamara is not going anywhere. He doesn't have any leverage in the situation, right? He says if the Saints don't want him, he's just going to go and drink coladas on the beach some damn way. I don't know. But the bottom line is he's already let them know that he has no leverage. So if he wants to stay, the Saints are going to definitely approach him to take a cutting pay. If he wants to remain or finish his last year with the Saints as a Saint, well, you've been saying it for a while now. Has your chance to prove it financially. You see? Now, these are some of the Saints free agents to talk about. The Saints have 19 players whose contract are set to expire. They effectively have until March the 9th to hammer out any deals before the players can start negotiating other teams. Let's look at some of these people. Demario Davis, the fantastic linebacker, 37-year-old, made it clear he's keeping his options open, even though he and the team have said they would like to come to an agreement for him to stay in New Orleans. Ultimately, I think Demario stays, but he's using other teams as leverage for one more payday. See, the philosophy was they would take team-friendly deals. Perhaps Cam would, but I think Demario Davis is creating a leverage situation with whoever he needs to use to kind of ratchet up the cost of what he's asking for, or possibly get a competing team to help drive his market value up so he can make one more payday as a player, right? That's his mentality. Now, defensive end Cam Jordan enjoyed a 10.5 sack season. He told reporters that he's not willing to take half off to stay with the Saints like he did last year, though it's hard to imagine him playing anywhere else. Will the two sides get a deal done? So I don't think it'd be expensive for Cam Jordan to get a deal. I don't think he'll be illogical or non-rational in terms of what they do. And like I said, the players know the Saints cap situation just like we know the cap situation. They know how much money the Saints will be working with coming up this year and how many various restructurings the Saints could have north of $35 million if they go through all of the restructures. If they restructure all of them except for Alvin Kamara, there are going to be some releasings that's going to occur. But the Saints could be over $35 million in cap money, and they can go over $40 million if they wanted to based on what next year looking like, because the cap's going to rise next year as well. And the Saints already sitting over $150 million, $157 million for 2027. So whatever they do now and this year, it'll be absorbed into next year, and they'll still be significantly above the cap. So they know that, and this is a rare situation for that to happen with the Saints, which is Cam and DeMario know that the Saints will have this money that they can get from them, right? They know this. Cornerback Alontae Taylor said he expects a robust market in free agency, and his comments on the matter indicate he may not be particularly hopeful about a return. We know this. That's what I was saying when they left. Saints and Taylor were able to agree on an extension during the season, weren't able to, and several teams pursued the cornerback at the trade deadline before New Orleans opted to hold on to him. So this is the thing. Is that a transition tag or whatever you want to call it, a franchise tag on the Saints they're going to use this year? I'd say no to none of this. Each player, whether it's DeMario Davis, Cam Jordan, Alontae Taylor, are big veterans, big money veterans, big play veterans. These guys ultimately contracts will be based on a market, and Mickey Loomis and Cole decided that was the way it was supposed to be, right? They knew DeMario Davis would have a big year. They watched Cam Jordan do what he did. Deals could have been struck before or inside of the season before it went over with, right? While it was still football being played. The same with Alontae Taylor. The only person the Saints negotiated with or had an actual discussion with was Chris Olave. Even though they have Olave on that option for $15+ million. They could have really tabled those talks and dealt with people who did not have an option, who were totally unrestricted, like Alontae Taylor and others. But they elected not to have those discussions, and ultimately they hit the block. He's going to hit the street because they see that the market for him might be sustainable enough for him. But then again, the Saints could be willing just to let him go because they see not only cheaper options, but maybe better players to fit the system. Like if they go into the draft and they don't bring Alontae Taylor back, is there a cornerback in free agency that the Saints could use that could use to replace Alontae Taylor? That to me is a good question. Do they have a safety available that can replace what Alontae Taylor does? Now they did bring Julian Blackman back for a cheap price on a 1-year deal, but you can't really count on that, right? So we know that a lot of these guys are going to be commanding a lot of money, man. They really are. It's going to be an estimated value for them. So they got different people, at safety level, whether it's Kobe Bryant, who won a championship with the Seahawks. His market value, his AAV is like $14+ million. So he's doing Jaquan Brisker from the Bears is $10 million. So you got guys, Cameron Curl from the Rams, $10 million. Brian Cook from the Kansas City Chiefs, $14 million. This is the AAV on some of these players. Kevin Byard is $7.8+ million. Jalen Thompson from Arizona is $9.4. So you got various people that'll be available at the center level, at the safety level rather. And you look at these guys and see whether these guys will be perfect fits for what you got going on if Alontae Taylor isn't the guy. But like I said, the Saints will do all that they can to look at that value and see if they can bring some of these guys back into the fold. So, we'll see what they're up to. All right, anyway, let's keep it going here. So other free agents, as of now, surrounding Tyler Shuck with weapons should be the priority. The quarterback is on a cheap rookie contract, creating a window for the Saints to take advantage, which is another reason why the New Orleans Saints really need to press on, not urgency, but more like a elevated sense that, man, we got a window here. We got a 26-year-old quarterback here on a cheap rookie contract because that's where a lot of chunk of your change will go toward the quarterback. And at some point, when his contract is over with, he's going to command big money. But for right now, you want to kind of take advantage of that. So you want to fortify and put offensive linemen around him, interiorly speaking, weapons around him. Not overdoing it, but you definitely want to ratchet up your sense of priority in this window. The quarterback's on a cheap contract, creating a window for the Saints to take advantage, but those weapons don't just have to come at the wide receiver and running back. Though there are certain needs, the help can come along the offensive line where the interior has to get better. We know that. Hole at the left guard. McCoy keeps getting hurt, missed 20-plus games the last 4 years. Cesar Ruiz has never been a good option at the right guard position. The Saints finally acknowledging that after years of people saying this guy stinks. You got to get better internally. You got to, because you got two rock-solid bookends. You have to improve the left guard, the backup at the center position, and the competition at the right guard position. You got to improve that. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, because you want to protect Tyler Shuck. You got to give him access to the running game and enough time to throw the ball. So with that in mind, here are free agents who could be intriguing fits for the Saints, right? New York Jets running back Breece Hall. If the Saints don't want to draft Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love at number 8, Hall would make sense as a lead back. He's a dual threat, but can handle a heavy workload. This is a tremendous running back. Breece Hall, excellent running back. He did some real positive stuff for the Jets. He would fit well for the Saints. He can run in between the tackles. He has a degree of speed and power, tough to bring down, can catch the ball out the backfield. Wouldn't be a bad pickup for the Saints. Of course, you would pivot away from Jeremiah Love in the draft, depending on what happens. So it's kind of speculative because, I would look at taking Jeremiah Love for Tyler Shuck. If we get our offensive lineman in free agency, I would really look at taking Jeremiah Love. The only way my position would kind of change if it's a player higher on my board would be available, like a guy like Ruben Bain. I see him as like a top 5 pick, and I have Jeremiah Love and basically, a couple other guys are high. But yeah, if Jeremiah's Love's there, that's good. If Ruben Bain falls to the Saints at 8, he's a top 5 player in this draft, top 3, top 4 player in the draft. Be difficult passing by Ruben Bain. I would have to take Ruben Bain because he would be a player that would be you can't pass up on them pass rushes. They just mean so much. Them pass rushes are off, and you get Ruben Bain fall down to you at 8. I got to take him over Love. Ain't no doubt about it. But like I said, in free agency, it depends. If you can meet some of these needs and pick up some of these needs, you can be a little bit better. So I'm trying to figure out what the Saints do with Alontae Taylor, if they match what he got, or if the Saints need to pick up somebody in the draft, like Downs from Ohio State. But anyway, Breece Hall from the Saints, I love that call. Los Angeles Chargers guard Zion Johnson, familiarity with the Saints coach Kellen Moore. He served as the offensive coordinator in Charger land during 2023, and Johnson was one of the rare Chargers linemen who stayed healthy and can block. That's a plus. Zion Johnson, to me, is better than Cesar Ruiz and would make a lot of sense for the Saints at that left guard position. He'll maul out and fill in. He's familiar with what they like to run and what they like to do. Wouldn't be a bad get. Pittsburgh Steelers Isaac Seumalo. The free agent class isn't lacking interior linemen, which lines up well with the Saints' needs. Seumalo is one of the more consistent linemen this year's group. He would be the guy that competes with Cesar Ruiz. That's where so Zion Johnson would be your starting left guard, and then Isaac Seumalo would be the right guard that press Cesar Ruiz. You see what I'm saying? The Saints will have enough money to go at some of these guys. They can be able to pick up a class of 4, of some of the topper, some of the cream of the crop guys in free agent, maybe get 1 or 2 of those guys and then get some second level guys like Isaac Seumalo. But yeah, I have no problem with this. Breece Hall, we'll see where that goes. But the 2 guard picks of Zion Johnson from the Chargers and Isaac Seumalo would be good for me. I plug in Zion at left guard, and Seumalo will compete with Cesar Ruiz for the right guard position. That to me would be good. So if Taylor departs, cornerbacks also becoming a big need. So the Saints are projected to have 8. The order has yet to be finalized, but the expectation is this, fam. This is what the Saints are looking like in terms of the draft picks. The first round will be number 8 overall. The second round pick, third round pick, 2 fourth round picks, one from Seattle in the trade for our fantastic wide receiver Rashid Shaheed. The fourth round projected to be a compensatory selection. And we got 2 fifth round picks, ours and then one from Seattle, and then the 6th round pick as well. So the draft is set for late April, 23rd, 25. Other decisions, Saints are waiting to find out whether Taysom Hill retires. Loomis said at the Senior Bowl that the team was given the 35-year-old space to make the decision. If Hill does continue his career, he's set to be a free agent. This is a very interesting development for the Saints, to be honest with you, because we don't exactly know the mentality, even though I believe that Taysom Hill is done as a New Orleans Saints player. I'm just keep it all the way real with you. I think Taysom Hill is done. I think his time with the Saints is over with. I think Taysom Hill it should check out. But you have all these picks. You can make a lot of moves in the draft. This is a lot of good picks that could be used to build great depth as well. So we'll see. But like I said, the curveball in terms of what happens with free agency is not so much Demario Davis and Cam Jordan. To me, is really Alontae Taylor, because Alontae Taylor is just not just anybody. And it takes a special type of player to replace Alontae Taylor. I think Caleb Downs is that guy from Ohio State. But then again, you got to look at if Love is there, if Downs is a greater need. But you always want to look at, if you got Tyler Shuck last year and you have an opportunity to take Jeremiah Love, it would be like, I don't know if he would be like Atlanta have their back, right? They got their fantastic running back, that Jeremiah Love would be that type of guy for us, right? Like you see what Atlanta got, or what they doing with their fantastic running back who carries the day. But when you have Tyler Shuck, and if you can add a Jeremiah Love to the mix, and you have those two young guys paired together, and then you just build up the offensive line, I mean, that is just so intriguing to me. Plus, you have AK-41 there that can mentor Jeremiah Love. I think a lot of people love that because of the fact that it gives Tyler Shuck a bona fide superstar running back that could carry the team, could catch the ball out the backfield. Some people believe that he's better than Ashton Genty, the Raider running back that went high in the draft last year, and he would give us a powerful running back tandem that will put the Saints into the top 5 rushing team in the NFL, because you will have to try to stop Jeremiah Love, and of course you'll have Tyler Shuck using his wheels to run, and you'll have him chunking in his rushing yards along with a difficult running back in Jeremiah Love. The play action game returns. The Saints can go downfield. It just becomes a football factory here for the team. So I can see why people love that. But I think the Saints really need to approach this thing by looking at that offensive line. So I love the call of Zion Johnson and Isaac Samalo, those two in theory. And these guys are growth graders. These are guys that are nasty. They get out there and they just maul over these defensive linemen. That's what we need. We have a lot of draft capital. We're going to have a lot of cap space. So things are looking good. Also, he mentioned the Taysom Hill thing. I think Taysom Hill retires. Remember, he's still rehabbing from a shoulder. And plus, there's options. Taysom doesn't have to stay with Kellen Moore, Hell, you're looking at Sean Payton. Sean Payton could pull Taysom Hill out there. Sean Payton's out there now. Pete Carmichael isn't Pete Carmichael the new offensive coordinator in Buffalo now? Where did Pete Carmichael go? Because that was really interesting, too, to see that Pete Carmichael actually left Sean Payton and went and took a job as an offensive coordinator. He's with the Buffalo Bills. So Pete Carmichael left Sean Payton as, I think he was just the offensive assistant, and decided to take the offensive coordinator job underneath Joe Brady in Buffalo. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens there. But nonetheless, you still Sean Payton could ultimately bring Taysom Hill to Denver. That's where I'm putting my money at right? So the Saints have to finalize plans for training camp. The team has acknowledged it. It could see itself in playing in the Hall of Fame game in Canton because of Drew Brees' induction, which could start a camp earlier than usual, which is cool to me to see early Saints football. Drew Brees canonized, putting it into the Hall of Fame. The Saints team is there. They got, that means more for him to be there at the Hall of Fame game on time, Benson Field. So I just love that the team could ride off that Hall of Fame energy to start the season, right? We be invested early, so this offseason is invested, plus we get right into it with the Hall of Fame game. Elsewhere, the Saints will continue negotiating long-term extension with wide receiver Chris Olave, and also have decided by May whether to pick up defensive tackle Brian Bressee's fifth option or not. Now, we've seen the Saints turn down options before or simply just work on giving extensions, right? Because that Brian Bressee's fifth-year option could be problematic for the Saints, right? It could be, because this fifth-year option, they got to decide by May. May the 26th is the deadline to decide on whether or not they're going to get the fifth-year option. Now, what's the fifth-year option? It's roughly $13 million. It's $13 million. So, would you do it? So, and that's the thing. Brian Bressee's shown flashes, inconsistent run defense, high cost. The option is estimated cost $13 million. Some of the critics argue that his performance hasn't warranted this, and I wouldn't give him $13 million a year, no doubt about it. I wouldn't do that. So the alternatives is, instead of picking up the option, Saints might decline and instead negotiate a long-term, lower average annual contract, similar to a strategy used with other players. Remember, we've seen this done before when they turn down options of first-round draft picks and give them a contract extension. So we're going to probably see a Brian Bresee contract at some point before May, because I do think Brian Bresee is a part of the Saints' long-term plans. This is also something to watch out for to the Saints. Saints will have money there as well. And I do think Brian Bresee is a part of their long-term plan. It's just not at $13 million a year. So at some point, the team has to pivot before May of this year and say, man, we're going to work an extension. So they still have several contracts to work on in the offseason, including the Brian Bresee extension, decline that $13 million a year and rework his contract extension for a 3 years more, 4-year deal with Brian Bresee. Because he got a lot to work on, but he's really thrived inside that Staley defense. So I'm for keeping Brian Bresee at a cheaper price. We're gonna have to keep an eye out on that one. We got to keep we're gonna have to keep an eye on that whole Brian Bresee situation, because it's flying under the radar with the Chris Olave, the Alante Taylor, the Demario Davis. That Brian Bresee option thing is kind of flying below the radar, and we got to pay attention to that. So shout out to NOLA.com for putting that together. Now, before I cut y'all loose, let me just show y'all this, man. This is a couple of the free agents situations that's going on. Let me hit you guys with some of the timelines and dates that's supposed to be happening. 2026 important NFL dates for you guys to kind of set your calendars, your off-season calendars for, as we move into this thing. Of course, the Super Bowl is over with. March the 17th is the latest big thing to happen here. That's a couple of days from now. Beginning this date at 4 p.m. Eastern time on March the 3rd, clubs may designate franchise or transition player tags, right? Now, this is beginning this date. So, and then, of course, later on March the 23rd, that's my birthday, NFL scouting combine will happen between the 23rd of February and March the 2nd. The scouting combine at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. And we'll be covering a lot of this on patreon.com, by the way, fam. We'll be looking at the scouting reports and all this live on the channel on Patreon when it happens. And then, of course, when we turn March into March here, March the 3rd, prior to the 4 p.m. Eastern deadline to clubs to designate franchise or transition tags during this period, on March the 9th, and ending on March the 11th, clubs are permitted to contact and enter in contract negotiations with certified agents of players who will become unrestricted free agents upon the expiration of their 2025 player contracts at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on March the 12th. March 9th through 11th, a prospective UFA, unrestricted free agent who is not represented by a NFLPA certified contract advisor is permitted to communicate directly with new club's front office officials, excluding the head coach and other members of the club's coaching staff regarding contract negotiations. The club is responsible for confirming the player status as unrepresented. No prospective unrestricted free agent is permitted to execute a contract with a new club until 4 p.m. Eastern Time on March the 11th. So it's a 3-day period. Then on the 11th, the 2026 league year and free agent signing period begins. So March the 11th is a very important date at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. The trading period for the 2026 begins at 4 p.m. Eastern Time after expiration of all 2025 contracts. The first day of the 2026 league year will end at 11:59 p.m. Eastern on March the 12th. Clubs will receive a personal notice that will include all transactions submitted to league office during the period between 4 p.m. Eastern and 11:59 p.m. Eastern on March the 11th. March the 29th through April the 1st, annual league meeting that'll be held in Phoenix, Arizona. Then going into into April. April the 6th, clubs that hired a new head coach after the end of the 25 regular season may begin off-season workout programs, right? April the 15th, deadline for clubs to time, test, visit, interview, or conduct physical examination with draft-eligible player at its club facility. April the 17th, a couple of days later, deadline for restricted free agents to sign offer sheets. April the 20th, 3 days later, clubs with returning head coaches may begin off-season workout programs. So you can see the clubs with new coaches, like the Falcons, could start their programs April the 6th. We start ours on the 20th, right? April the 22nd, deadline for prior club to exercise right of first refusal to restricted free agents who sign offer sheets. April the 22nd, deadline for clubs time, test, visit, interview, include video and phone calls, conduct a physical examination with draft eligible player at location. Then the big day, April the 23rd through the 25th, is the NFL draft in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Then we continue on into May, which is a deadline for clubs to exercise the 5th-year option for players selected in the first round of the 23 draft. And then it talks about all this other stuff. So you start seeing rookie football developmental programs, the NFLPA Rookie Premier, Spring League meeting in Orlando, Florida on May 19th through 20th. And then we get into the June schedule. And once you get June, when you get closer into July, and then ultimately that's when you start getting into really the meat and potatoes of the season. When you're in July, you're in the thick of it. It's hot outside, and we getting close to NFL football as August gets close. So that's some of the offseason schedule for you guys, just to put you on game about that, right? Just to let you know about it. All right, anyway, and let's keep it moving. Let's go right here. And this is just to look at some of the players available in this year's free agency, right? This is the quarterbacks available in free agency. That's why guys like Derek Carr is coming out, because this is a real sparse veteran free agency market that this year a lot of guys, Daniel Jones, who is rated as the best quarterback in this free agency period. He's coming off an injury with Indianapolis. He was having a good year till he got hurt. Aaron Rodgers is also there, but Aaron Rodgers with McCarthy in Pittsburgh, McCarthy already said he would like Aaron Rodgers to be his quarterback. He won a championship with him. Is he going back to Pittsburgh? He actually did pretty decently there. With McCarthy there, maybe they'll, continue the goodness going. Russell Wilson is down. If Russell Wilson is continuing to play, he's over 37 years of age. I don't know if Russell will continue to play or not, but maybe people won't look at Russell Wilson. But this is a very timid class of quarterbacks, right? You still got Kenny Pickett. Jimmy Garoppolo at 34 years old is up there. Case Keenum, Trey Lance, the former Charger quarterback, is available. Carson Wentz at 33 years old. So Malik Willis is an intriguing option. He has a couple of good games there for the Steelers. For the Packers. Is he a guy that you want to look at as a top quarterback? A lot of people have been looking at Malik Willis to possibly be a second quarterback to come in. I don't know if you see it as an option, as a number one option, with this kind of class, free agency class. So it's just not looking too good, man, in terms of the quarterbacks. As you can see, it's a very timid class, man, at all, man. Not really nothing popping in the quarterback front. That's why guys like Derek Carr are starting to get some looks because of this timid QB class. So he's making the right choice to try to jump back in the ring. We'll cover that story more later on the next broadcast, a shorter broadcast. This is a look at the running backs family to kind of y'all can see what we're talking about here. These some of the running backs here. They talked about Breece Hall, who's considered the hottest quarterback on the free agency market. His market value at his AAV is over $10 million. So Kenneth Walker is also there. He's coming off a Super Bowl win right there at 25 years of age. Did a really good job there. He's $9 million a season. Rashad White from the Packers. Javonte Williams, the running back from the Cowboys. Travis Etienne at 27 years of age is on this list. Rico Dowdle is there. Isaac Pacheco, who had some injuries with the Chiefs, he's on this list as well. Good quarterback, a good running back. Kenneth Gainwell, Brian Robinson who was with the Commanders. He ended up with the 49ers. Najee Harris with the Chargers, hitting 28 years of age. He's on this list as well. J.K. Dobbins, Tyler Algieri is a really good get for anybody. I mean, he's 25 years of age, but he's buried here. And I think Tyler Algieri looking perhaps for a starting role or something that puts him up there. And I think he would be a good get for the Saints. This is a guy that has basically been used in a complementary role, filling in for Bijan Robinson and even comboing with Bijan Robinson. He's not as fast as he used to be, but he's a really solid in-between tackle runner, catches the ball out the backfield, blocks well, just a sturdy running back. And just watching him play for the Falcons over the years, watching Tyler Algieri, man, I think Tyler Algieri is a hell of a running back. He would be a terrific get for the Saints if they wanted to get somebody in a competing or a combination role. But you don't have too many starting level running backs here that you want to plug in your system. You're looking at Hall. Hall is going to be the top guy in the class, to say the least. And of course, you look at the wide receivers for the class for this upcoming class. You can see George Pickens, who had a fantastic year with the Cowboys. I don't think he gets away from the Cowboys. I think he's going to break the bank with them. CeeDee Lamb. Jawan Jennings is also listed here, $22.6 million AAV. Alec Pierce, who's another terrific young wide receiver, looking at $20 million a year. Wan'Dale Robinson from the Giants is here. Some of these guys probably will get re-signed by their teams once we hit into free agency when they're able to. So you'll see some of these guys actually stay. Pickens, I believe, will stay. Robinson possibly. We'll see. Pierce had a fantastic year with the Colts. He's a young wide receiver that is very good. Rashid Shaheed is looking, after being traded, is looking to make some money. He won a championship with the Seahawks. He's looking to make some money at 27 years of age. So Mike Evans is there at 32. The Buccaneers, I don't think he goes back. He's trying to get a payday. Romeo Doubs is another really good wide receiver, who's looking to make about $12 million a year. But if you're the Saints, what kind of wide receiver are you looking for to add to the mix? So you're looking for a guy that's a speedster, you're looking for a big wide receiver, or a guy that can do a little bit both, who has speed and size that can help you there to kind of add another big talent along with Veli and Alford. I think the man name is Alford, Moose Alford. And then you look at Marquise Brown, Christian Kirk, and there's several other players on this list to talk about that perhaps the Saints look at. But if you're trying to get Tyler Shuck, one of the top 10 guys, right? Pierce is going to be expensive. I don't know if they do the Pierce thing, but if the Saints are really serious about getting talent, they'll start building that line and maybe get a veteran. But Jawan Jennings, we'll see what that is. But Jennings is good. He's a big physical wide receiver, but he costs a lot of money, and they're going to be teams after him. Could there be a reunion with Rashid Shaheed and the Saints just getting the pick from him, shipping Shaheed to Seattle and Shaheed getting his work? Or you might see Shaheed head to Oakland. I mean, not Oakland, to Las Vegas with Kubiak there. So you might see something like that happen. But Romeo Doubs is another fantastic young wide receiver. He doesn't have the size, but he does have good route running and good speed there. So it's an interesting mix. Keenan Allen was a guy, he's kind of old in a 233, almost 34 years of age. I don't know if I would want an old wide receiver like that. But he's a solid guy. Just had and he played with Kellen Moore. I thought that would happen last year, and it didn't materialize. He ultimately went back to where he went back, and it might be too late for that. You might want to get somebody to kind of help Tyler there. But I wouldn't be mad if they reach at him, but I would say roughly no to that. All right, how about this list? This is your tight ends. Kyle Pitts is looking for a payday. They're saying he can make almost $11 million a year. Will the Falcons get him back? Travis Kelce is there. A lot of people anticipating he's going to retire. David Njoku, the former tight end from the Browns, said that he's leaving for a payday. He's leaving Cleveland. And there's Isaiah Likely from Baltimore, who's turned out to be a good receiver. I think Baltimore ultimately will keep him. And there are other options. Cade Otton is there from Tampa Bay. Dallas Goedert is there. Tyler Higbee, who's another terrific tight end. But these are older tight ends. Tyler Conklin from the Chargers. So there are a couple of guys here, if you're the New Orleans Saints, that you might want to perhaps bring in as a veteran to steady the room, or perhaps you just, go back with Jake Stahl. Now, Stahl was here last year. He really didn't impress, and I think maybe the Saints can kind of look at doing better than having him here. Perhaps they like Matavo, and I like Matavo too. I think it might be having another veteran here to kind of push the room would be interesting nonetheless. Let's go into the offensive line and kind of look at the tackle position, because that's a position right there. As you can see, some of the top tacklers available: Rasheed Walker from Green Bay, David Edwards. Now, Edwards is listed as a tackle here, but he's one of the better guards that's available at 29 years age. His AB is close to $20 million a year. Will the Saints be paying him that kind of money return? And of course, like I said, we don't have a big problem with the tackle positions, because we still have you still have your bookends. You still have Asim Richards there. Xavier Truss is a veteran who can be used at guard or tackle. So the tackle position is okay, so to speak, right? I guess you could throw a free agent at the position, or even a draft pick later on in the draft at the position, but nothing expensive, right? Just to add depth there, because they seem to be all right there. The problem with the Saints is when you look at the guard position, right? This is the problem with the Saints, the guards. Guard is an issue. So let me see, they got it broken down, and they got it guard and guard, so guard and center. So yeah, here you go. So the AV on some of these guys off the chain, like David Edwards, is the one that a lot of teams are going to be looking at, because Edwards is going to command almost $20 million a year. Is the Saints going to spend money on a $20 million left guard? Are the Saints going to spend that kind of money doing that, or are they going to get cheaper? Ed Ingram is a former LSU Tiger who had some really good play for the Houston team. He's looking at $13 million. Elijah Vera Tucker, who also can play the guard position for you for the Jets, at 12, almost $13 million. Problem is with him, he's injury prone, always seems to be hurt. You can't count on him. We don't need that. Zion Johnson, I talked about Zion Johnson. There could be a market for him, but they're looking at $11.2 million in terms of what the Saints can look. Like the article mentioned, Zion Johnson being the guy, plus he has connection to Kellen Moore from his time with the Chargers. And then, of course, you look at other guards here as well. Isaac Sumalo, the article mentioned, he could be picked up at $10 million a year. And there are other options, whether or not, depending on what you're looking at as a team, that the Saints can look at. But if you're the Saints, you want to kind of get one of those top 10 guys there. And looking at a guy like, whether it's David Edwards, if the Saints are really froggy and they won't felt like jumping and getting Edwards, he's a good offensive guard. He's 29 years of age, so he'll be like a solid veteran at that position. So he'll plug in. It won't be no long learning curve for David Edwards to get in there and really help out. Ed Ingram is another interesting option there. Elijah Vera Tucker did a lot of positive things for the Jets. Zion Johnson seems like a good fit. And, of course, they talked about Isaac Samalo, who I like a lot. Then there's Kevin Zeitler, who's kind of old, and there's a few other people there. But if you're the Saints, you want to try to see if you can land at least 2 guards, one to start and one to push the other guy to start. That's what I'm looking at. Whether the Saints do that, we'll see. The center position for free agency as well. When we talk about the center position for the team, you see guys like Tyler Lindenbaum from Baltimore. He's there. I don't think the Saints are going to spend top money for a center in this position, right? We know better than that. But what is Luke Fortner worth? If you can see Luke Fortner, his AV is at $6 million. Luke Fortner was making $1.5 million. So Luke Fortner is about to double his money. Will the Saints pay $6 million a year for the 28-year-old Luke Fortner with 4 years of NFL experience? He was a knockdown. He was a very, I ain't gonna say, he took him a while to get going, but he was a very solid backup center for the Saints. And if I'm the Saints, I'm looking to kind of bring him back. I don't know if I'm going to spend $6 million for Luke Fortner. At first, I think I wanted to commit $4 or $5 million. But listen, the guy knows Tyler Shuck. He worked with him. So there's no snap issues right there. He has familiarity with your offense. And we know we won that trade with Jacksonville, but signing Luke Fortner to a 3-year deal at what? $20 million, 3 years, $21 million, 3 years, $20 million. You know, it'd be like $18 million or so, 18.5. 3 years, 18.5, which breaks down to like $6+ a year, $6 million a year for your backup center. Maybe it doesn't go. Maybe 5 years, 3 years at 15, 16 million for Luke Fortner, right? As a backup center, or perhaps Saints could just pivot and go for a rookie. I would not do that. I would just give Luke Fortner, especially the fact the Saints have the bread. But these are a few of the options at the center position. Not many options. If you're the Saints, you need to go to get Luke Fortner. And there's also a possibility that somebody could see how good Luke Fortner played and want to take them and plug him as a starting level guard. It happens. Hopefully it don't happen to us. And, of course, then we moved into the other issues when you go you can look at the edge rushers and stuff that's available. Trey Hendrickson is out there. He's totally off the table. Don't ask me about Trey Hendrickson, fam. That is totally off the table. A lot of these guys is off the table. If the Saints want to get themselves some help at the edge rusher position, more than likely they'll probably either draft the guy or re-sign some of the players that we had last year that were actually pretty decent. I'm talking about some of the backup guys that helped out in that capacity. So, you know, that's probably what we'll be ultimately looking at. From an interior defensive line standpoint, we see David Onyemata on there and a few other guys, but I see the Saints reworking the contract of Brian Bresee, add him there. I can also see the Saints basically, having guys like Vernon Brockton return. You have a few other of our interior defensive linemen there, and they'll add somebody in the draft. Wouldn't be surprised if they added a veteran in free agency and brought back some of the guys like Jonah Williams and Jonathan Bullard and bring some of those guys back for cheap. Those guys are going to be relatively inexpensive for the Saints to return. So I anticipate them going into free agency and trying to sign any expensive players. You know, I just don't see that happening for the team. You can see big guys, Jalen Phillips from Philly and Calais. I don't know when Calais Campbell stops, but they got a lot of big thumpers in there, and I don't see the Saints being active in signing interior offensive linemen at the highest level. The linebackers, just in case you don't get Demario Davis back, or what's Demario Davis's market value? Let's get an idea of that, shall we? You see Devin Lloyd listed at $20 million for Jacksonville. That won't happen. You can see Demario Davis at $9.4. Will the Saints sign Demario to a $9.4 million deal or a $10 million deal in his final year? You know, $10 million could do the Bears want him. You see what I'm saying? That'll be interesting to see. Quincy Williams from the Jets is there. Caden Ellis is up for $8 million a year. Do the Saints go back to Caden Ellis? Probably not. So it's a couple of guys there. If Demario Davis is off the table, I mean, there are some options there. Even Eric Wilson. Y'all remember Eric Wilson? We picked him up. He's been kind of with the Vikings for a while, and that was some time ago. Anyway, but yeah, you can see a couple of these guys right here. If DeMario's not there, there's Caden Ellis there. There's Quay Walker from the Green Bay Packers. Nakobe Dean, the former Philadelphia Eagle linebacker, at 7.8. It's a couple of guys available there that you might possibly want to pick up, but I don't see that being a main encumbrance for the Saints re-signing Demario Davis for $9 or $10 million. Seemed like a lot to me for a final player, but if the Saints really want the man, that'd probably be the best bet for them to get him back, right? All right, anyway, to keep it going, just showing y'all guys some of the guys here left here for the market. Let me see what Cam Jordan's market at, fam. What his market is. Because I think it's about the same as Demario Davis. The AAV for Cam Jordan is about the same as Demario Davis. Might be 8. Might be a little cheaper for Cam, but we'll see. I'm trying to find them now. But yeah, that's the thing we have to look out for. But yeah, indeed, you take a look at Demario Davis at $9-10 million a year, and the market trying to push on him to see if he gets more. We'll see how that works. Right? We'll see how that works. I don't see Cam on here. All right, I'm gonna check back, fam, once I finish going through the rest of it. Now, also, as we get to the cornerback list, you see Trayvon Diggs there. And these some of the expensive, pricey corners. Nashawn Wright, the cornerback from the Bears. Watson from the Chiefs. Jamal Dean from Tampa Bay. These guys, they're all looking at north of $12 million, with Nashawn Wright is 16.6. You can see Alontae Taylor at just over $11 million a year, right? So if a 3-year contract for Alontae Taylor at $33 million or somewhere around there. Some people got Alontae Taylor as the second best cornerback in the free agency period. A lot of people see them as possibly picking him up, and other teams signing them, and I don't think the Saints go crazy for Alontae Taylor rather. But there are options, for the Saints if they see fit. I mean, that you could see if you don't see Alontae Taylor coming back. The Saints will have to pivot and maybe pick up a starter there at the cornerback position, or perhaps they get one in the draft, or perhaps they do one, do both. Maybe they add a veteran, a lower cost veteran cornerback to the mix, and ultimately then draft a safety in the draft. So we'll see. That Alontae Taylor question is one that's probably one of the biggest questions for me, because I don't know what the Saints are considering doing with Alontae Taylor, right? That's the big question with me. But there are options out there. If the Saints don't replace, if they lose him, there are options to replace him in free agency and in the draft. Like you look at some of these guys right here, they're a little pricey. But Jaquan Brisker, all these guys are going to be $10 million over. Thompson from Arizona, 9.7. Bayard is a little old. He wants $7.8 million. Blankership, who had some solid play for Philly, $7.1 million. Tony Adams from the Jets, 6.5. So, like I said, it's options for the Saints even into the draft, but these are some of the free agent positions available. And, of course, we take a look at the punter situation. And, of course, we're going to need competition at the punter level. They don't show you the AAV on the punters because it's not really, but veteran options and for the Saints, whether or not you want to go there. Blake Gillikin is out there. Remember Blake Gillikin, he's out there. Thomas Morstead, believe it or not, is still out there kicking and punting. So that's very interesting as well. So we'll see what the Saints do, if they might draft somebody or simply bring in somebody that's not on this list. Remember last year the Saints had another punter that was punting with Kai Kroger, and I thought the other punter was the one that actually beat him out, I thought, y'all remember the name of that punter that was competing with Kai Kroger last year, fam? Hold on, let me look that up right quick, man. Give me a second. James Burnip. That's the guy I was thinking about. James Burnip. James Burnip was the guy I thought should have got that job. That's who I thought should have got the job. And I think James Burnip is in the league. That's who I thought that got the job. No, he's punting in Canada. James Burnip is punting in Canada. I swear I thought won the job last year, and he didn't. But Burnip was a guy that I thought should have been the punter for the Saints last year. I mean, he was a fantastic punter, man. He was doing all this stuff. Remember, he was the one that had all these high punts and kicks for the Alabama Crimson Tide. This guy is 6'6", he's 235 pounds, and he was punting stuff through the roof. He was on fire, man. Doing it. Matter of fact, I done pulled up his player card from the draft. Right here he is, right here. Burnip was punting. I thought Burnip won the job. They went with Kroger for whatever reason. But look at his bio. 21 played, 15 games. You can see right there, he put, let me see, he had 48 punts, almost 1,900 yards. He averaged 39 there. 150-yard play. He had 22 fair catches, 15 of them inside the 20. He had 0 touchbacks. That was in 21. 2022, he had 13 games, 44 punts, over 1,800 yards, averaged 42.3. Had 58 was his longest punt, 20 fair catches, 14 inside the 20, 2 touchbacks. And then, of course, he was held for extra points and field goals if they needed him. The next year, second team All-SEC, ranked 5th in FBS with 47.6-yard punt average, right? Played in 14 games, 59 punts, right? 806. Longest was a 67-yarder. He had 18 fair catches, 22 inside the 20, 7 touchbacks. 2024 ranked 9th in the FBS, 45.4 yards per punt, right? 52 punts, over 2,300 yards. His longest was a 54, 25 fair catches, 19 inside the 20, 4 touchbacks, played in all 13 games. Worked with the Pro Kick Australia to learn how to punt after playing Australian rules football growing up. And they say he's a long level punter who hits the ball with consistent ball flight, hang time to rack up impressive net totals. Burnip showed improvement with his touch punts and ability to bury teams inside their own territory while proving he could consistently flip the field. He needs to prove he can build on his 2024 results, but Burnip has the tools to become an NFL punter. Strength, has long hang time to make gunners' jobs easier. Almost completely eliminate return yardage in 2024. Very comfortable and focused as a directional punter. Solid punt power with consistent ball striking. Weakness, might need quicken his touch to toe time as a pro, some inconsistencies with touchbacks during his career. A lot of that was ironed out, but this is who the Saints had kicking against Kai Kroger last year, if y'all remember. And that's ultimately, he lost out to Kai Kroger. I thought that Burnip won the job, to be honest with you. But they turned to Kai Kroger. Now they're looking for competition at the position. And I think Burnip should come back. You should bring Burnip back again for him to have an opportunity to compete with Kai Kroger again. I guarantee you beat him. Then you have 2 Australians. You have James Burnip and you have Charlie Smith. There'll be 2 Australian punters once again for the Saints. Both of those guys are talented. Burnip was booming those kicks for Alabama, man. He was really booming those kicks. He's a big guy, 6'6". He would the ball, the hang time was off the chain. You don't have to worry about no kick returns, all this kind of stuff. It just wouldn't happen with Burnip. And the Saints went away from him for Kroger. If they invite him back, he should come back and beat Kroger for the job on the next go round. So we'll see how it goes, man. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, fam, listen, that's all I got for y'all on this episode of the show. I hope y'all liked it. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and feel free to share the show on your social media feed. Know that the gear, the official gear, the Shuck Y'all gear is available. Such parodies as of Chuck Norris, Chuck Berry, Chuck Connors, all of that is available. Chuck Mangione, all of that is available in our Shuck Y'all collection line. The merch helps keep the platform moving strong. So if y'all like it, go to Shuck Y'all, the Shuck Y'all collection. The link is in the description section or in the comments section below, man. Y'all can check that out and support the stream by getting some merch, support the stream by becoming a member of the show. And as you can tell, man, we continue to move and groove and grow on the Sports Coma. So with that being said, man, I salute y'all. I appreciate y'all for being in the stream. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. By all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feeds. Shout out to my Patreon members and our YouTube membership family. Thank y'all for all that you do. Y'all are the reason why we continue to grow and grow strong every day, every month, every week, every year. We keep it real deal Holyfield because of you guys. So with that being said, I salute you and all of the rest of the fantastic Who Dat Nation and the great Saint Think Tank. I'm going to holler at you on the next one. Much love, peace, and Who Dat.
Yeah. Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Long as I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like Benson, I'm a Who Dat. I'm a Who Dat. Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. Thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shame for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy and you probably smell the crooked referees or Roger Goodell. Yeah, probably like this and I'm a Who Dat. Every day I'm living, I'm a Who Dat. Lose or winning, I'm a Who Dat. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like this and I'm a Who Dat. It's the Sports Coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
Hey, New Orleans! Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with the whoditdaily.com, your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit the whoditdaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation.
Welcome to the Pro Shop, where we create authentic NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping the Pro Shop, the Pel Shop, or the Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below or in the chat.